The Rangers got 2 All-Stars back, but it didn't mean jack squat as the Rangers lose their 4th straight. We're talking about that and the absolutely historic atrociousness of this bullpen. All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On to the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Paddock, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan covering this team for 10 seasons, including all 5 of the Locked On Rangers podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Paddock. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Subscribe on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below, unless you're an Astros fan, in which case, don't comment. Just go away. Go away, please. Because don't look at us. Don't look at this Texas Ranger team. It is Tuesday, September 19th, and your Texas Rangers are 82 and 68, holding the 3rd wild card spot. It depends on how this Mariners game is going, but they have a 3-0 lead on the Astros, or on the A's, excuse me. If only it was a 3-0 lead on the Astros. It's a 3-0 lead on the A's, so I think the Rangers will be tied for the 3rd wild card spot, and probably, if we're not lucky, which it seems like we aren't, 2.5 games back of the Houston Astros in the AL West. But before we get into today's show, this episode is brought to you by Jase Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jase case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50+ infections. Get yours today at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Now, the Rangers got some good news to start off this day. They had 2 All-Stars activated off the injured list. Josh Jung is back. He was hitting 5th in this lineup. Adolis Garcia is back as well. A little surprising on both of those guys coming back today. We knew they would be probably eligible to come back at some point in the series, but having both of them come back at the same time was theoretically a nice boon for your offense. But alas, no. This Texas Ranger team could only conjure 2 runs against the freaking Boston Red Sox and Cutter Crawford. Cutter Crawford, a guy with a 4.19 ERA, a big bag of mids, started off with a leadoff home run by Marcus Semien. Great day for him, multi-hit game, drove in the only 2 Rangers runs, including that leadoff home run, his 9th of the season, which extends his franchise record for most leadoff home runs in a season. Fantastic season for him, continues, and an RBI single after Evan Carter hit his first big league triple, his 2nd, but his first one where he didn't get tagged on a stupid replay challenge. But hey, congrats to the kid, Evan Carter. Some pretty good at-bats. Still a 1-for-3 day with a couple of strikeouts. Those strikeouts have been really concerning for him and concerning for this entire Rangers lineup. 12 strikeouts for them in 32 at-bats tonight, and not a whole lot of offense. Just 5 hits, 2 walks in this one. Both of those came in the same inning. The Rangers were not able to capitalize on those 2 walks in the same inning. The Rangers weren't able to capitalize on much of anything. Like I said, just the 5 hits, and 2 of them came from Marcus Semien, and not much else going in this one. Did have some pretty good at-bats by Josh Jung, a couple of hard-hit balls, including his single in the 9th inning, 102.4 miles an hour off the bat for him, and then also had a strikeout in this one because it's Josh Jung. He's going to have a few strikeouts. Also had a 106.2 mile an hour ground out, and then in the 1st inning, his very first at-bat, it was a 92.8 mile an hour flyout. So some hard hit balls for Josh Jung. Said he is dealing with some pain in that thumb, which he expects to be the case moving forward, but he can play through it, and he's going to play through it because he can. It is not a risk of him injuring it any further, which is very, very good news because the Rangers need his bat back in there. As much as I enjoyed Josh Jung and Ezekiel Duran, they just were not getting the job done, and they were not getting the job done defensively. Both those guys coming in and providing their defense immediately. The first ball, of course, it was hit to one of the 2 injured guys coming back. It was hit to Adolis Garcia. It was right at the wall in right field, and part of a brilliantly pitched day for Jordan Montgomery. Could have liked to see a little bit more about him. We're going to save the outrage about the bullpen until the 3rd segment because I need to build up to it, because if I talk about it right now, I'm not allowed to swear on the show anymore. So we're gonna try and mellow out and remember some of the good things that happened in this game. There weren't a whole lot of them for the Texas Rangers, but there were a few. Just getting those guys back in the lineup is absolutely huge for this Rangers offense. I mean, the defensive upgrade that Adolis Garcia is over Robbie Grossman in right field is just cannot be overstated. I mean, having a defensive outfield of Evan Carter in left field, Leody Taveras in center field, and Adolis in right field is fantastic. Plus, you have that infield where everybody is at the very least above average defensively. Corey Seager is your one weak link, and he's fine to pretty decent defensively at shortstop. Josh Jung has been a revelation this year defensively. There was never any expectations about his defense being good, but he has worked his butt off at his defense and making it very, very good. The arm's still not super strong. Did uncork the hardest throw of his season because he was just so jazzed up to be out there again. You could just tell the smile on his face. Just he's a guy who absolutely is obsessed with baseball, loves being out there. And Emily Jones was talking on the broadcast about how he's just grumpy when he's not playing baseball. And I don't blame him with watching how this team has faltered so spectacularly in his absence. I don't blame him for being pissed off. I'm sure they're all pissed off. I'm sure they're all pretty grumpy right now, whether they're playing or not. I mean, this is not a pleasant situation to be around. This is a team that had a historically good first half and historically good offense, and we've seen it just go up and down and up and down and up and down. I mean, you can kind of squint and shrug your way out of, 3 games in Cleveland. They've got some decent pitchers and they were having good games or whatever, but you just keep 4 games in a row after having that kind of offensive performance against Toronto. It's just so incredibly frustrating. And if this offense isn't clicking at the levels that they were in the first half, then this team can't win games. They just straight up cannot win games. And you're not going to be able to batter and bust everybody down in the playoffs. You're just not going to be able to do that. I mean, as good as this offense is, and it is very good, and it is not fraudulent. These are 9 very good hitters in this lineup. Occasionally going to have days like this, but the thing that frustrated me is that this team wasn't working those quality at bats like they were in Toronto. These were not long counts. These were quick outs. This was the 8th inning was a 4-pitch inning. You're down 2 runs and you get 4 pitches. I mean, take a freaking pitch. Take a pitch. That's what this team did so well in Toronto is they were working, 8 and 10 and 7 and 62 walks a game in Toronto. They were forcing pitchers to throw a million pitches, just being so incredibly aggravating and irritating to go up against. And that wasn't the case in this one. I mean, I was surprised that Cutter Crawford was taken out after only 6 innings. He had 84 pitches, and he probably could have gone a few more, but he didn't. And they went to their bullpen because some teams can actually trust their bullpens to not blow a lead or to not give up a bunch of runs, even if you are losing, let your team come back. What a wild and wonderful concept that must be. I mean, I don't know what that's like personally. I have absolutely, literally zero idea what that could ever be like. But I'm sure it's nice for a team to have a bullpen that's not an absolute atrocity to God and everyone. Coming up, we're going to talk about Jordan Montgomery's fantastic start, why it's so important, why the Rangers need every single bit of him pitching like this. But first, this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. Are you struggling to close deals? Cold outreach is wasting the time of both the buyer and the seller at every stage, especially when sellers are using shallow, outdated data. Your organization can overcome these challenges with technology that translates comprehensive, high-quality buyer data into real-time insights. These deeper insights empower sales reps and teams to adopt the habits of top performers, which leads to better outcomes like more pipeline, higher win rates, and larger deals. We call this deep sales, and we've built the first deep sales platform with the next generation of LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/lockedon. That's linkedin.com/lockedon for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/lockedon and get started. Thanks to the Aviators for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. The Rangers take on the Red Sox this week and catch every pitch with the hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, the Rangers did get some good pitching from one of the guys in this game, and of course, it was the starting pitcher because the Rangers have maybe the worst bullpen to ever bull a pen in the history of bullpens. But Jordan Montgomery today, shout out to Jordan Montgomery. What a phenomenal start. And not just this start, but the start before it as well. I mean, this is 2 straight starts where he has combined for 14 innings, 1 earned run, and 11 strikeouts. Just 1 walk and 9 hits in those 18 innings. absolutely fantastic. He had a couple of rough outings before that, including against Oakland in that Friday game where the Rangers lost against Oakland, and the start in against Minnesota, and just a couple of rough starts for Jordan Montgomery. He needed these ones to get him back on track, and he is pitching like the best starting pitcher in this rotation. The Rangers need him to be their game one guy if they even get to the playoffs, which at this point with this bullpen and this inconsistency and frustration, it's looking like that is much more in doubt every single freaking day. But Jordan Montgomery has not been in doubt. He has been very consistent for the Rangers. He's had a couple of bad outings, but the thing that I've really liked about Jordan Montgomery is that, for the most part, I didn't expect him to give you that many spectacular outings, but a lot of pretty good outings. And with how good this offense has been at times for most of the season, and needs to freaking get back to being that, like yesterday, like 3 days ago, it needs to get back to that and stay back to that, not scoring 10, 15 runs a game, but just score 5, score 4, 3, I don't know, just a little bit. But Jordan Montgomery giving you those 7 innings, and he was only at 95 pitches, and he's not a guy who's thrown 100 pitches a whole lot and consistently. It's mostly been around 85 to 95 pitches where he's pulled, but usually he's able to be pretty consistent in that and get you 5 to 6 to 7 innings on those 85 to 95 pitches. With the state of this bullpen and the Rangers having a 1-run lead, you kind of thought, maybe you stretch it, but then your bullpen's still pitching 1 inning, and honestly, with the horrendousness of this bullpen, I don't know if you even trust them 1 inning in a 1-run game. That's just how incredibly shell-shocked and broken this team is. But this is a fantastic outing by Jordan Montgomery. It wasn't just the 8 strikeouts. It was so many called strikes and whiffs in this one. He had 19 called strikes of his 95 pitches and 25 swings and misses. That is 40 called strikes plus whiffs of 95 pitches. Absolutely sensational stuff there. The 21 whiffs is the most he's had in a game by far this season, 5 more than any other game he has pitched for the Rangers. The curveball was working for him in a big way. 14 swings and misses on that pitch, 5 swings and misses on the changeup. He swung and missed at half of the changeups that he threw, or of the swings, the 10 swings that they took, they swung and missed on half of them. Also swung and missed once on the sinker, which is working very well, especially for called strikes. 11 called strikes with that sinker, including a couple of called strike 3s. Very, very good, very efficient inning or outing for him. If he hadn't gotten caught up in the 5th inning where he ended up giving up his 1 run, and thankfully it was only 1 run, and he threw about 20-ish pitches in there, he was on pace for like 10 pitches per inning in the first 4 innings. Like it was truly exceptional pace where I thought, okay, maybe the Rangers can get a 1-0 complete game shutout where the only run is a leadoff home run from Marcus Semien, because that's what it feels like this team needs. The team needs the Herculean effort every single night from the starting pitcher, and God bless Jordan Montgomery for trying to give this team that and thinking, all right, it's a 1-run lead. Surely the bullpen isn't going to give up a bunch of runs in every single game, right? Surely not. Just mathematically, statistically, theoretically, like on paper, like it can't be every single time out that they blow it, right? No, it turns out that is not the case. But I mean, the rest of this Rangers starting pitching staff, I mean, with Max Scherzer going down to injury, like there's a lot more questions in this starting rotation. With Nathan Eovaldi taking a little while to get back to his full self, we'll see what he looks like in the game this week. I mean, it's really going to tell you a lot if he is back to his full self, and the Rangers need him to be not only back to his full self throwing 100 pitches, but just like back to May version of himself, back to the June version of himself, back to the best version of himself, because they might need a freaking complete game shutout to have a chance at beating anybody right now with the horrible state of this pen. I mean, Dane Dunning has had a really nice outing to fight through some command struggles in his last game out there. Had also a pretty good game in Toronto. John Gray has been an inconsistent mess for his last 3 starts. Andrew Heaney is out of the rotation. Martin Perez is out of the rotation. And Cody Bradford, who had a nice 3 innings, got absolutely shellacked in the 4th. Maybe him being on a more consistent starting every 5th day. And if he's actually going to maintain that role in the starting rotation, which remains to be seen, because the Rangers just have a huge question mark at their 5th starter, who's actually like their 6th starter, more like their 7th or 8th or 9th or 58th because of how many starting pitchers have been injured for the Texas freaking Rangers this season. But Jordan Montgomery, do not ignore what he has done so far as a Texas Ranger, because he wasn't the only guy the Rangers traded. Max Scherzer wasn't the only pitcher that the Rangers traded for. In 9 starts with the Rangers so far, he's got a 3.23 ERA, 54 2/3 innings. Just really excellent stuff for him. Only 47 strikeouts. That's not what he's doing. He's not a big strikeout guy. He is a get you innings, eat innings, averaging over 6 innings per start in these 9 starts with the Rangers. And the Rangers have needed every single bit of those 6 innings per start. I mean, they need all their starters to go like 9, 10, 15 innings because this bullpen is so unbelievably, like, inexcusably, historically bad. And credit to him for giving those 7 innings of 1-run ball. Like, that is a huge outing in a game that the Rangers should have picked up. This is a Boston team that is utterly defeated, heading in off of a 4-game losing streak. They have been absolutely horrendous since the All-Star break. They have key injuries to their lineup. Their star rookie first baseman, Tristan Casas, is done for the year. I mean, the rest of this lineup, outside of Rafael Devers, there's not really anybody that's too terribly frightening in it at all. I mean, there's really not. And to let them get to you, to let this bullpen let them get to you when you had a lead and you had the one guy who you thought was trustworthy for at least a decent chunk of the season in there, and to have him explode like he did is just another sign that this bullpen is going to be the reason this historically good season was absolutely thrown in the gutter. We're going to talk about that and a little bit more. But first, this word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Jase Medical. Modern medical care and treatment are important, but our global supply chains are fragile. Things like pandemics, natural disasters, and foreign travel may cut you off from the treatment that you need. Jase Medical is your solution. Just fill out their online form and one of Jase Medical's board-certified physicians will review it to determine if medications are safe or appropriate. Then Jase will send you prescriptions to one of their partner pharmacies where your order will be filled and mailed directly to your home. You can also send your physician a message for answers to treatment-related questions at any time. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jase Medical offers the Jase case. Save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jase Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using code LOCKEDON at checkout on jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Thanks for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. The Rangers take on the Red Sox this week and catch every pitch with the hometown broadcast on SiriusXM. Just download the SXM app and search Rangers. Now, stop me if you heard this before, but the Texas Rangers bullpen blew a win that the Rangers should have had. A 3-run 8th inning with a 2-1 lead and Will Smith on the hill. Just an awful showing from Will Smith in this one. Walks the leadoff batter, couple of walks, couple of hits, just 1 out that he gets, which was a nice strikeout, but 4 base runners in your 1 inning, a 1-run game. And the sad part is there's not a whole lot of better options. Chris Stratton came in and did allow a hit and a walk, because of course he did, which he did promptly erase. The walk didn't come until the 9th inning, which he did erase on a pickoff move, a pretty nice pickoff move, if I do say so myself. But he couldn't get out of his inning of work. Brock Burke had to come in and get 1 out, a strikeout. But this is just unfathomably bad. How bad this bullpen has been. Evan Grant tweeted this out after the blown save. And he said the Rangers are 13 for 16 in save chances since August 13th. 13 for 6, or 3, excuse me, 3 for 16. You have blown 13 out of your 16 save opportunities since the middle of August. No wonder this team has been an absolute tailspin. The bullpen has been an active disaster for the entirety of this season. There have been months-ish. You can count on one hand, basically, the amount of like good months from any reliever. You got April for Will Smith, May for Will Smith, May for Josh Spores. Yep. Yeah, that's about it. That's about all the really good months any reliever in this entire bullpen has had this entire season. It has just been an absolute historic travesty of a bullpen. There's just nothing else to say about it at this point. I have looked up other languages to express my malignance with this bullpen. I have waxed poetic. I have screamed, cursed, made deals with God. All of the 5 steps of grief I have gone through over this stupid bullpen. And you make 2 trades for relievers. One's Chris Stratton, and he's fine. And one, you give up a guy who might win a Cy Young for Aroldis Chapman, who has barely seen the light of day the last 10 games. I mean, it's honestly insane. He's thrown 3 games since including the 6th of this month, the 6th of September. He threw 1 scoreless inning in a meaningless blowout game against Houston. He threw 1 inning of very high stress with a couple of walks against Oakland in a win on the 9th. Then against Toronto, he threw 1 inning where he gave up a solo shot around a couple of homers, because of course he did. And since that was the 12th, that's been 6 days since that, and the Rangers have not seen him. They didn't see him in the 1-run game that they were leading in Cleveland. I don't really know why, except for you look at his ERA the last 7 games, and it's 7.94. 5 earned runs, 7 walks in 5 2/3 innings in his last 7 games. He is 0-2 in those games. In his last 15, he's got an ERA of 3.68. 6 earned runs, 10 hits, 11 walks, a 1.43 whip in his last 15 games. The guy who you brought in knowing the kind of dude he was, the kind of personality he has associated with him, and the kind of historic big stage failures that he has had in the playoffs multiple times. You brought in that guy. You gave away Cole Reagans, who you completely wasted. Not that he would be doing this with the Rangers, because they just can't get a single pitcher to do anything good that's homegrown. Maybe Jack Leiter will break that curse. Take a historic Herculean effort and all of the good vibes and good luck possible in the history of Earth to get the Rangers to build one half-decent starting homegrown pitcher ever. But I'd settle for one half-decent starting or bullpen arm at this point, because it's so bad. It's honestly so historically bad, and it feels like it's contagious. It doesn't matter who's brought in. It doesn't matter what the situation is. The bullpen is just always going to give it up. There's not even any tension when the bullpen comes into a game. You just know they're going to blow it. Unless it's like a 7-run lead in the 9th inning, I have confidence in this bullpen to blow it. Like, I'm not a guy who wants to advocate for anybody losing their job, but Brett Hayes is the bullpen coach this year, and I don't know what he's doing there. Like, are you coaching them to just be bad? Just throw balls or throw meatballs? Like, there's nothing that's working for this bullpen, and I wouldn't be surprised. I know it's incredibly hyperbolic, but like, I tweeted this out and I kind of stand by it. Like, just if everybody in this entire bullpen was just cut and DFA'd tomorrow, I wouldn't really raise an eyebrow. That's how bad this bullpen has been. That's incredibly hyperbolic and, extremely reactionary. But, like, who in this bullpen are you going to be freaking missing? Will Smith has a 4.5 ERA. Chris Stratton is giving up huge home runs often. Jose Leclerc is pretty good in low-leverage situations, but the second there's a spotlight on him, he just shrivels up and can't get to it. I mean, Aroldis Chapman can't pitch in big situations or in save situations. Brock Burke has been an absolute mess in the second half this year. I mean, Jake Latz has been up for a game. I mean, who are you really freaking out about? Let's look at the AAA Round Rock bullpen, start just pitchers in general, and see which one we go down the list. And I wouldn't feel good about just like giving a shot right now. Matt Bush, give him a shot. Sure. Mark Church, heck, give him a shot. He might walk the world, but whatever. It's just something different at this point. I mean, Robert Duggar, Josh Dye, Scott Englert, Lucas Jacobson, Antoine Kelly, Zach Kent, Chase Lee, Fernando Ozuna, Daniel Robert, Gary Rodriguez, Josh Spores, Justin Slayton, Nick Snyder, Alex Spees, Avery Williams, Owen White, Cole Winn, Tyler Zombrano. Sure, any of them. Doesn't matter. I know that like half of those guys are injured for the full season, but honestly, throwing them out there, how much worse can it be than what this bullpen has thrown out there the last month and a half, 2 months, entire season? Honestly, how much worse can you possibly get? Everybody in this bullpen is just so traumatized by how bad they've been all year that they have no confidence in themselves. It doesn't matter who's here. You could throw Mariano Rivera peak Mariano Rivera in this bullpen, and I'm pretty sure he turned into a guy with a 7 ERA, because that's how toxic and how just how widespread it is. Like, there's just absolutely zero hope in this bullpen. No one has the confidence of, I'm that freaking guy. I want the ball in this situation. I want to go strike those a-hole hitters out because I hate every hitter. That kind of mentality that, those aces are wired to have, just they hate every single hitter. They want the ball in the spotlight that those, just top tier grade A closers have, and the short memory that they have. These guys have long memories. They remember every single mistake that they've made, and they are absolutely shattered by it. It's not an indication of what kind of people, they're not bad people for it, but they are not capable of performing in this spot. It's just over and over and over again, and I have tried to express my melancholy, my forlornness, but I think a poem by Emily Dickinson might actually be more apt to describe how I feel than my own words can. It was not death, for I stood up, by Emily Dickinson. It was not death, for I stood up, and all the dead lie down. It was not night, for all the bells put out their tongues for noon. It was not frost, for on my flesh I felt Sirocco's crawl, nor fire, for my marble feet could keep a chancel cool. And yet it tasted like them all. The figures I have seen, set orderly for burial, reminded me of mine, as if my life were shaven and fitted to a frame, and could not breathe without a key, and 'twas like midnight some, when everything that ticked had stopped, and space stares all around, or grisly frost's first autumn morns repeal the beating ground. But most, like chaos, stop was cool, without a chance or spar, or even a report of land to justify despair. Now, I'm not smart enough to know what any of that means, but I know it's real freaking sad, and that's how I feel when I watch this freaking bullpen. Like death, despair, hopelessness, orderly, disorder, chaos, unpredictability. That's the qualities you want in a bullpen, right? You want to feel like death and like nothing is predictable, but sadly it is a little predictable of how much this team is going to blow it every single time. It just sucks. There's not much more to it. I have given up on being on the roller coaster of we're so back, it's so over. It's just so over. Unless this team is going to score 17 bajillion runs every single time out, they're going to get 7 innings from every starter, and they're all going to be healthy, then this team doesn't have a chance in heck of competing in October, let alone down the back half of 7 to 10 games against the Mariners. I mean, you can't even take the first one against Cutter freaking Crawford and the Boston freaking Red Sox riding an 0-for-4. Like, what chance do you have? This is an absolutely wasted first season. It's a good first step. They have a winning record. They might make the playoffs. They might limp in there. They might skip in there, and mathematically anything is possible. Anything except for this bullpen throwing a freaking scoreless inning. Like, the Rangers are not asking for that much for their bullpen. Like, they're not asking for them to be the 2015 Royals bullpen. That's not reasonable. They're not even asking them to be the 2015 Rangers bullpen. They're asking them to not be utterly terrible in high leverage spots, be utterly shell-shocked in any situation where the game is close and you're facing any major league hitter out there. Like, it doesn't even matter who it is. It's not even like they were beaten by Rafi Devers. If Rafi Devers hit some big 3-run homer in a tough spot, then you know what? You tip your cap. Rafi Devers is a $300 million man, a multi-time All-Star, a very, very good player, and you know what? It happens. But it wasn't that. It was getting beat by Rob Refsnyder and Adam Duvall and Bobby Dahlbeck and Luis Urias. Like, what the heck? What the heck is this bullpen even doing? There's no point in getting hopes up at this point. I mean, obviously I'm still going to watch every single game and care about it down to the wire, but like, this is just completely unreasonable having any expectations for this team to win games down the stretch when every single time out there, you know that this bullpen is ready to give up any lead, whether the offense is dropping 7 runs and the starting pitcher maybe gives up 3 or 4, and it still feels like an unwinnable game because the offense is being asked to do way too much. The starting pitchers are being asked to do way too much. It's not even like this bullpen is super overtaxed. They've had a pretty good rotation for most of the year that has been able to go pretty deep into games. Like, this is not a bullpen that's like, Seattle or Houston, where there were a lot of good relievers in there early, but you're having to throw them out there a billion times per season, and they're getting worn down. That's not been the case with this bullpen. They've just been bad. They have not been overworked because they have been, working them at all feels like working them too much because they cannot be trusted in any situation outside of a 32-run lead, which is not exactly how you want to feel about your bullpen heading in October. Every team has their flaws, but this flaw by the Texas Rangers in their bullpen feels completely unsustainable, unrecoverable from, unacceptable, and unbelievably historically bad to the point where it's almost funny if it wasn't so dang sad. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank you all so much for listening and subscribing, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy every part of this team that isn't the bullpen.